Two men, two eras, two divisions. But one terrifying similarity, an ability to reduce elite fighters into mere mortals. One became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. The other became the first undisputed bantamweight king in half a century. And though their names come from vastly different corners of the globe, Mike Tyson from Brooklyn, New York, and Naoya Inoue from Kanagawa, Japan, the echoes of destruction that trail behind them sound eerily familiar. Mike Tyson was raw power incarnate, a force of nature that needed no translation. He walked through opponents like they were made of cardboard, snatching souls before the first bell even rang. Meanwhile, Naoya Inoue, with his cold precision and surgical violence, never needed to yell to command fear. His silence was the sound of inevitability. But what truly connects these two isn't just their undefeated runs or the belts strapped across their waists. It's the psychological hold they place on their opponents before a single punch is even thrown. They don't just win fights. They warp them. And they do it with an intensity that makes even seasoned champions look like they're on borrowed time. On December 13, 2022, Naoya Inoue entered the ring with one mission: collect the final piece of the puzzle. He already held the WBA Super, WBC, IBF, and the ring titles at bantamweight. Only the WBO strap remained, held by Britain's Paul Butler, a skilled, technical fighter, but not a man anyone expected to slay the monster. From the outset, it wasn't just the power Inoue brought, it was the control. The way he seized the center of the ring was less about positioning and more about psychological dominance. Butler, a champion in his own right, found himself not in a championship match, but in a lion's den. Every feint, every jab, every subtle angle from Inoue wasn't just technical, it was tactical warfare. The jab was stiff and fast, the footwork a masterclass in balance, and the body shots were designed not to stop Butler in a round, but to shut him down slowly. By the middle rounds, Butler looked less like an opponent and more like a survivor. He wasn't trying to win anymore. He was trying to withstand, to delay the inevitable. But inevitability doesn't wait. In the 11th round, Inoue uncorked a right hand that detonated across Butler's body, the kind of shot that makes a man's soul rethink its residency. The follow-up was ruthless and precise, a blur of fists that erased the final question mark. Inoue stood over the wreckage as the undisputed bantamweight champion, the first to do so in 50 years. But decades before that night, in a much heavier division and a much louder era, another force was reshaping boxing. On November 22, 1986, Mike Tyson was only 20 years old, but he carried the aura of something ancient and apocalyptic. When he walked into the ring to face WBC heavyweight champion Trevor Berbick, he wasn't just trying to win a title. He was claiming a throne. Tyson's presence was suffocating. From the opening bell, he launched himself forward with a menace that wasn't just physical, it was emotional. There was no caution, no warm-up, and no mutual respect. Just fists, fast, compact, and loaded with menace. Berbick tried to find his rhythm, but every time he did, Tyson was already mid-symphony, beating drums with his gloves. As the fight progressed, Berbick began to unravel, not because he lacked courage, but because Tyson took that away from him too. When Tyson finally connected with the left hook that sent Berbick tumbling like a malfunctioning marionette, the knockout wasn't just decisive, it was historic. Berbick tried to rise multiple times, but his legs failed him each time. Tyson had not just won, he'd permanently redefined what fear looked like in the heavyweight division, became the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history, but more importantly, he became a symbol. The era of Iron Mike had begun. Fast forward decades later, and in a different weight class, in a quieter form, another era began to take shape. July 2023. Naoya Inoue, now the undisputed bantamweight champion, had moved up to challenge the super bantamweight elite. His target? Stephen Fulton, a slick and confident fighter who held the WBC and WBO belts. Fulton wasn't just another belt holder. He was the consensus #1 at 122 pounds. Leading up to the fight, Fulton exuded confidence. He dismissed the idea that Inoue was some untouchable phenom. He'd seen guys like this before, he said, fast, hyped, dangerous. But when the bell rang, he realized quickly that Inoue was not something he'd seen before. He was something new entirely. From the first exchange, Inoue's timing was supernatural. His jab cracked with authority. Not just a measuring tool, but a weapon on its own. His footwork was surgical, slicing through angles, constantly setting traps that Fulton had no blueprint for. Every time Fulton tried to reset, Inoue had already moved into his blind spot. By the 7th round, Inoue had done what Tyson used to do so well. He broke the man in front of him before the finish even came. A straight right hand zipped through Fulton's guard with such velocity that it looked like a glitch in the Matrix. Then came the left hook, short, sharp, and surgical. Fulton hit the canvas, not just hurt but unmoored. He beat the count physically, but mentally he was lost. What followed was a flurry that left the referee with no option but to stop the slaughter. Fulton wasn't just defeated. He was erased. The moment felt like a passing of a torch from one generation of fear to another. Inoue hadn't just moved up in weight. He'd taken the top guy, the undefeated slickster, the one with all the answers, and rendered him obsolete in under 8 rounds. But Tyson, too, had his own moment of completion. After unifying the WBA and WBC belts, he needed just one more, held by the IBF champion, Tony Tucker. On August 1, 1987, they met in the ring with undisputed status on the line. Tucker was no pushover. Tall, athletic, and unafraid, he actually won the 1st and 3rd rounds on many scorecards. He didn't just try to survive, he tried to impose himself. He fired quick combinations, used his reach, and didn't seem afraid to trade. But Tyson, like Inoue, had a way of processing chaos and adjusting with terrifying precision. By the middle rounds, Tyson had figured him out. He slipped inside the jab, dug hooks to the body that took the wind out of Tucker's sails, and battered him with uppercuts and short rights. The pressure never stopped. Like a tidal wave, it kept coming until resistance became exhaustion, and the final rounds, Tucker resorted to antics. He taunted, showboated, and dropped his hands, but it wasn't confidence. It was survival. Tyson, unaffected, kept coming, expressionless and efficient. When the final bell rang, there was no question who had won. Tyson stood as the first undisputed heavyweight champion in nearly a decade. A man who had taken the sport's most iconic division and bent it to his will. And now, years later, Naoya Inoue walks that same path in the lower divisions. He doesn't talk much. He doesn't need to. His fists speak fluently. Like Tyson, Inoue isn't just about winning. He's about reducing the idea of resistance. Champions come in strong, believing they have what it takes. But against Inoue, belief dissolves. The jab becomes hesitant. The movement stutters. The mind scrambles for an answer that doesn't exist. Tyson did it with raw brutality and explosive combinations. Inoue does it with sniper-like precision and surgical violence. One swung like a hammer. The other cuts like a scalpel. But the result is the same, domination. They both leave trails of broken champions, not because those men weren't good, but because Tyson and Inoue made greatness look average. And that's what truly binds them, not just the belts, not just the knockouts, but the psychological footprint they leave behind. They didn't just beat world-class fighters. They shattered the myth that those fighters were untouchable. And they did it in ways that will be studied and feared for generations. Tyson walked into the ring with chaos in his heart and thunder in his fists. Inoue walks in with silence, precision, and an expression that never changes. 2 personalities, 2 tempos, but one outcome. When Tyson fought, people watched not to see if he would win, but how long his opponent could survive. Today, fans watch Inoue with that same question on their minds. Oh, whether it's Iron Mike turning giants into statues or the monster dissecting champions with surgical grace, what we're witnessing are not just fighters. They are eras unto themselves, eras where fear had a face. Oh, you see any similarities between Inoue and Tyson? Leave a comment with your thoughts. And if this deep dive into two of boxing's most fearsome finishers hit the spot, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next story. Boxing isn't just about belts. Sometimes, it's about the men who make the belts feel small.